Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope everybody's being successful. I hope everybody's making a plan. And most of all, I'm hoping you're not worried about time. It's never too late. And nothing you ever did was a waste of time. That's important. And it's important to me to reiterate that. The biggest mistake people always have is not starting. That's true. Fear prevents them. Not making enough time prevents them. Thinking too much about it prevents them. But never worry about when you did start. Worry if you never started at all. But whenever you did start was the right time. What I mean by that is that just the fact you started, that you actually showed up to the gym today, that you actually wrote down that first page of that story today, that you actually wrote that business plan, that you finally called and see how much the rent was at that place for that restaurant you had an idea about. That means that you started something. That means that you're starting to focus. That means that you're trying. That means that you have the objective, the desire, the urge. My first book was published 7 years after I wrote my first short story in college. And when I made my short story, it was the ones that I attempted to print and submit to magazines, and I got a lot of rejection. It took time for me to write and have an idea for my next story, which was Work Husband, Work Wife. And I worked on it for 18 months, and I submitted it to many publishers, and many writers, and finally I actually got it published. Between that and then Coffee and Cash was about 20 years. Writers have to write. Characters are in our head. We have to share them. We have to let the story speak. We have to find the story speak. We wouldn't be writers if we weren't. Now I'm 4 books in, and I can say I'm a published author because I have 4 published books, and I've actually sold a couple. Thank you, blessing, for the people that listened and shared. So now, forever and ever and ever, I can say I'm a published author. I'm actually an author that got paid. The timing took long. The effort took long. I gave up a few times. But at the end of the day, I did it. And now I'm moving on to my next task, my next goals. And like I said, nothing is wasted time. Every time you were either learning or getting prepared. Yes, it would have been nice if you started earlier, maybe. But maybe if you started earlier, the failure would have been so great you never would have came back. You ever think of that? You weren't ready at time. Maybe you truly were not ready. Maybe it was indeed God's timing. Or maybe not everything was in place. I'm thinking of the story of Stephen Paxis, who drew. Stephen Paxis is the creator of Pearls vs. Swamp. Great comic. Check it out. Amazing comic. Great. Funny. He studied to be a lawyer. He studied to be a lawyer to get money. Nothing wrong with that. But he never stopped drawing. And then in 1996, he lived in Santa Rosa where Charles Schulz, the great creator of Peanuts, lived. And he always had breakfast at the same place. So Steve Paxis saw him having breakfast, got the courage to go up to him and say, "Hi, Schulz, I'm a lawyer." This is taken directly from the interviews I saw with him. He said that was the worst opening line ever because Charles Schultz got very white. Thought he was going to be served with a subpoena or something. He turned out no, but I also draw. And then Charles Schultz said, okay, sit down with me. And they talked. And he actually wound up working with Charles Schultz, still submitting his comic. He said he worked 2 days a week, working in Charles Schultz studio, drawing, helping, and actually helped draw the script and created the thing. And eventually, in 2002, he quit being a lawyer and did Pearls full time. And actually quit working in the studio too because he was working on his own comic strip. I constantly wonder if he had gone to an actual art school and actually studied comics instead of being a lawyer, would it have the same biting sense of humor? Would it still be the pearls versus swine I like to read? Did any of that experience of lawyering borrow to what he does today? That's a good question. Not one we're going to have the answer to, but to my point of this video, nothing is wasted time. I mean, he became a lawyer that got money. He didn't like it. He always drew. And eventually, that became his life, drawings, which is still his life today. So using that story that I've heard and the experience, I think we're better off with the Stephen Paxis that we had that was a lawyer first. So nothing's ever a waste. Everything can be knowledge and gained. It's just how you use it. Don't be mad for starting late. Be mad if you never start. Nothing's wasted time. Just make sure you try, and even if you fail, you learned. Always positive thoughts. Again, if you like what I say and like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure to download Atlas Earth. And the best game that plays, I have the link on my Twitter, like I have all the rest of my links, at Risky6877 on Twitter. Did really good at Bitcoin today. Make sure to download Ollie Stash. And also, if you get a chance, read my books. There is Coffee and Cash by Chris Alexinas, Alexinas. And also, my new book, Hidden Treasure. I already wrote a sequel for it. Maybe it'll be 10 years before you see it. Both in Amazon. Have a great day. Be blessed.